feature presentation.
Welcome back to another Untitled movie review. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchand.
Matt, it's day one. We're in a park of the Toronto International Film Festival. Not reviewing any TIFF movies yet. We've seen about, 9 in total.
Haven't reviewed a single one.
Not one, but we are reviewing Barbarian, which is an unofficial pick of the Toronto Midnight Madness
That is
lineup.
true. We probably could have put the TIFF, maybe not officially. I should try.
We
to
should
find
put the
a way.
unofficial,
the Midnight Dankness logo on it.
Dubbed by Peter Kaplowski, who had a screening the other day, which apparently went really well.
Yeah, last night it premiered a Toronto premiere at Midnight Dankness, which was kind of the prologue to Midnight Madness.
Yeah.
So it is kind of an unofficial TIFF movie. So maybe this is technically our first TIFF review. I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but we are reviewing Zach Cregger's Barbarian, as Eric mentioned, which should now be playing in cinemas for you guys by the time. This is all a blur, everyone. As you can hear with the background noise Eric mentioned, we are recording all of our podcasts throughout the Toronto International Film Festival, kind of like on the go. You guys might remember this from a couple years ago. I think 2019 or 2018 we did this.
Pre-pandemic,
we did this. I like the vibe of it. It gives a little down and dirty vibe, just like this movie.
Yeah, it's super dank. Still waiting for the podcast, Are You Afraid of the Dank?
I still want to do that,
But, Barbarian is a film that we will be somewhat cryptic with the plot.
Yeah.
Because, like many critics, and including ourselves, we feel the best way to see this movie is not knowing anything going in, or know as the least amount as possible, and you will be pleasantly surprised and extremely disturbed in probably both ways and collectively. And just it's an interesting movie because, like, having, I'm going to talk about Rogers for a second, like, going through all
fucking dare
the
you
press media, the kits and stuff like that. Like, I wanted to make sure that I didn't even allude to anything that was too specific, because what Zach Cregger's movie does so well is it really flips the script in a way that you will never see coming, and you could not predict the outcome of this movie. Even if you have a little bit of an idea, you're probably wrong. There were subtle hints that, like, maybe after you've seen the movie and you go back and think about it, that will kind of allude to what the film is building to ultimately.
Right.
But I think the best way to see a movie like this is with, a packed audience on a Friday night,
not knowing anything about it,
and just enjoying it and thinking, like, okay, this is a director who hasn't really made a feature narrative
since Miss March.
And you look at the quality of this film, because horror movies in general, especially studio horror movies, usually get a bad rap. They're usually considered
hit
kind
or
of
miss, or just like
low grade, exploitation, or just kind of like trying to make a quick buck on a weekend. The filmmaking in this movie
very
is
assured,
incredible.
Like really, really, really good. And I'm 1,000% with you. So we will be incredibly cryptic. This will probably be one that we're like being very vague with our statements, and we'll probably just really drive home of just like, it is a very entertaining, very solid horror movie that is very disturbing and violent and crazy and funny at times, and like with some great performances and some great red herrings, and just like, and like you said, just very assured and really nice looking is not, like, I guess the right word for it, because it's a lot of it's in like grimy, dirty basements and stuff like that.
But the compositions and the craft and the framing of it, there's a technical prowess that's being
I love that
flexed.
truck is pulling up to us right now.
I mean, it's kind of sinister in a way. It kind of works
like
for
a
the
dump
film
truck.
because
if you hear a dump truck, that's
because the movie does take place in the automotive vehicle capital of
Detroit.
America, in Detroit, and I do think it is trying to make a social commentary on kind of the ruins of old Detroit, specifically in a post Reagan world, economically speaking. But yeah, when you go into this film, the trailer and a lot of the sort of plot synopsis in general are kind of showing you, a young woman named Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, is prepping for a job interview, and she books kind of a house in the middle of nowhere in the ruins of old Detroit, and she finds out that she's not the only one that booked the location, that Bill Skarsgård's character Keith also booked, and that the location has been occupied. So, she reluctantly decides to take him up on his offer to stay the night, but still somewhat cautious, as understandably you would be, especially for a young woman, with a guy she knows nothing about. She takes a photo of his ID and all that kind of stuff, and from there we kind of get that classic, like, we hear noises in the middle of the night,
a door opens and you don't know who it was.
For every cliche or trope that is used, I think
that all of that is intentional.
It is, but it's also earned, because there is some payoff that feels satisfying to why a character will make a certain choice to come back to a location, or to,
which I brought up in my interview with Zach Cregger that you guys can check out right now.
And that's important. That's an important distinction within this genre, is because a lot of the times, whether it be a haunted house movie or a film where a character has to make a decision in order to confront something or someone, there's a lot of illogical choices being made
just for the sake of it being a horror movie, or needing the villain to succeed, or whatever.
And part of it is also getting a visceral reaction out of the audience, kind of being like, oh, don't go in the basement.
And that's exactly what I brought up in that interview. And I think there's a fine line, right, of like, you want your audience to be yelling at the screen, don't go in there, or don't go do that, but you don't want that suspension of disbelief to be so strong that your audience or the people watching goes, no one would ever fucking do that. Like no one would do that. And then you kind of lose your audience, where Cregger does such a good job, I think, in this movie of making it not necessarily believable that they would do these things, but you understand that why their character. One, like, there's some great juxtaposition without giving anything away, of like, there's two different characters that do a very similar thing, or a very similar decision, but they do it for two completely different reasons. And each one feels true to their character of why they would go into that spot, or why they would go down into the basement or whatever, right?
Right.
So, like, I think that was actually, really, really well done, where even though you're like, come on, don't go in there, are you fucking stupid? It's just like, you understand why those characters are doing it. And both are, one is very funny and one is very like, hi, sweet girl, don't go down there.
Yeah, and I think what you're also speaking of as well is also a classic genre trope of usually, if you're thinking of even things like a slasher movie or a home invasion film, characters that are usually terrorized by a force are either ones that are kind of, disreputable, amoral types, like Justin Long, who plays this, Hollywood actor retreating from an incident.
Yeah.
And AJ, and then you have Campbell's character, who, is applying for this, position for a documentary film, and a filmmaker that she wants to work with. And you see these characters make these choices and, kind of reflecting who they are. But when you have them in a movie like this, or again, horror in general, you have kind of the more amoral sinner type, and then you also have the character who's kind of caught at a crossroads, who is at a moment, who has to make a decision, fight or flight, but also the one that will kind of prove their morality.
Morality
as a human being. And like that's the
and
moment
the movie plays with that
of character, right?
Is really great. And you mentioned how the movie's structured, and I think it's ingenious, and this isn't also spoiling anything, but a great aspect ratio change. I love me a good aspect ratio change, Eric, you know that.
And you don't notice it at first, because in the first moment that it happens, like, usually a lot of filmmakers will kind of draw attention to the screen changing.
Yeah.
But what you're kind of drawn in that first image when it does happen is the color within the frame.
Color and the time period, right? And like that.
And the song choice.
Yes, exactly. And I think that, like, I love that kind of stuff. And the movie has a couple great smashes to black, where then it completely kind of restarts. And I think that's where, the stuff they haven't shown in marketing and things like that, where you're like, oh shit, this is very unexpected, and there's a giant crowd coming towards us, and I hope they don't park in front of us to do something. Oh, and it seems like they are. We'll see what happens there. But anyways, yeah, I know we're dancing around some things, but I really think this is, like we said at the beginning, a movie that just know it's going to be incredibly entertaining. It's going to be a wild ride. If you are a horror fan, I think you will vibe with this. Like even if it looks like your typical, not necessarily home invasion, but that whole Airbnb concept of like, is this guy sketchy or not kind of thing. Like, it's not that. That is just kind of a great setup for the movie, and I think it works really, really well. And then it evolves into something different. And I know people like, I don't want to say other movies that I would compare it to because that might give certain things away, but some people have compared it to Malignant of last year.
Yeah, in terms of how the genre tonally kind of switches from horror to comedy.
Yeah.
And again, you talk to Cregger about sort of the tonal balance and kind of coming from a comedic background as well, and in the way that you have people like Jordan Peele and Sam Raimi, and also, you know, William Peter Blatty, who, you know, wrote The Exorcist and directed The Exorcist Part 3, which is another movie where if you go in not knowing what it is, you might be disappointed that it's not a traditional Exorcist movie, but then you'll also be maybe somewhat surprised by how funny and weird it is, and Barbarian definitely is that. Yeah. There are horror movies as well that I could reference in terms of, you know, what this is emulating, but it will give it away, and I think it's best to not know as little as possible going into this thing, and, you know, try to see it with a crowd or a group of people, you know, like look at your schedule or the listings of the theater and see if it's
go on
packed.
A Friday night or a Saturday night and see it. Like, again, I'm that person who does like to go to the movies, you know, in the morning on a weekend when no one's there, but this is that type of movie that you want a packed crowd for, and I feel like a lot of people going in will have no idea what they're getting into, which I think will be a lot of fun. Like, you know, mainstream audiences that just sees that trailer and goes, oh, okay, it's like, you're, you know, Bill Skarsgård looks creepy,
a jump scare
and like,
movie,
basically. Kind of thing, right?
Yeah, Pennywise is in it, and and I mean, even Justin Long, like having Justin Long and Bill Skarsgård, you know, with it, and then even, you know, Long being in both Kevin Smith's Tusk and the Jeepers Creepers, the first film, and a little bit of the second one, even though that movie's very problematic because of the filmmaker. You know, like, you have a certain connotation when you think of those actors being in a horror movie. So it's also just interesting to think of, like, Justin Long's one of those guys who has always been likable, and, you know, even though I hate Tusk, it's interesting to see him in both that movie and this play such a dirtbag, but his boyish kind of look kind of helps to kind of, you know, disguise some of that or question it. And it's just interesting to see that it's, you know, his perspective of his sort of own backstory and where that goes.
I really like that guy too. I feel like he had his moment in the like 2000s.
He peaked and accepted with Jonah Hill.
Ask me about my wiener. Remember that?
Yep. Yes, we say that.
Jonah Hill's one of his first things, right?
Yeah, well, his first movie is the 40-year-old virgin. The scene when he goes to the eBay store, right? And he wants to buy the fish, the Disco Stew platform shoes. Good shit.
But yeah, I echo everything that you're saying. We're gonna cut it here because, again, I don't want to give anything away. So just go see it. It is great. I really liked it.
Great tip in this movie: how to put together a duvet cover.
Oh yeah, that actually is a great. A very interesting way, but I do. They have good chemistry, man. Like, I think the movie, I think all around is really solid, and I can't wait to see what Cregger does next, because it took him so long to do this, and he wrote this as well, and like, so it seems like
because we should mention that he started out as a member of the whitest kids you know, and we already mentioned that he co-directed Miss March with the late Trevor Moore. This is such a departure, and it is always interesting when you see a comedic talent kind of go to a darker side of their personality, and I think horror really lends itself well to that. So I think the only real negative thing I have to say about it overall is that some of the social commentary on homelessness and Detroit and like you know, in terms of like a post automotive what am I saying that, like, you worked at GM, mobile automobile sort of Matt's looking at me like I'm just struggling. It's day one of TIFF, and I'm having a moment. But in terms of the ruins of not having any kind of major production to salvage.
This movie could have taken place in Oshawa.
It could have. It really could have.
I mean, GM's coming back to Oshawa too. So
but I don't think it completely nails that, because there is a moment later on where, again, there's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief. Yeah. Where
I totally know what you're saying.
I think you know what you're talking
about.
Yeah,
and I totally agree with that.
Where it's like a character would do more than what they are doing, but at the same time, I understand it's making a point about the person that's doing it.
I agree. Yeah,
and again, I don't mean to be cryptic and also slurring and fumbling my words like an idiot.
Even where this Airbnb is and then renting it out and stuff, you gotta have to go, all right, you guys didn't do your research? Like, come on. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you would have done your research, but I get they're like, oh, all the hotels are booked because there's a conference in town. It's
a convention of some sort.
I'm like, all right, that's an easy way to write yourself out of this, but
but being where it is, you think you'd get there and you'd be like, there's no way I would stay here because there's no.
Yeah, you guys will know when you see the movie.
But again, I think, as you mentioned, even in talking to Cregger again, it earns those moments.
Oh, I think it does too. Yeah. My rating, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I really, really liked it.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5, but I am close to giving it a 4. It's just that I I gave Malignant a 4 originally, so I'm just I'm comparing, ratings don't matter, but I'm just saying I like Malignant more.
I agree that I like Malignant more, just because I think it's even crazier and more unexpected than this movie too. And just very different, right? Malignant's not trying to do the exact same thing as this movie, but
the automotive industry was what I was trying to say the whole time, and I'm such a bumbling buffoon.
I'm going to give it a 4. Eric gives it a 3.5. Go check out that interview with Zach Cregger. It should be on the Untitled Movie Podcast channel right now. It's just a short little interview, 5 minutes. With Zach. Great dude, great conversation. Go check that out as well. Barbarian's now playing in cinemas. Eric and I will be reviewing a crap load of movies during the Toronto International Film Festival. Have we began reviewing anything? Not really.
Nope.
So
not at all.
We're going to start to do that now, and then we're on day 1. We're going to see a bunch of things tonight, so it's exciting. So on Untitled Movie Reviews, you'll get all those TIFF reviews, so you're already in the right spot. If you're on YouTube, all those reviews will be on YouTube as well. There'll be technically no moving video, but there will be a version on YouTube for people if you want that. But one-stop shop for everything. Just head over to Letterboxd, which is Untitled_movies. We'll post everything over there. Thank you all for listening or watching. As always, my name is Matt Rohrbeck. You can find more of my work around the internet, mostly at UntitledMoviePodcast.com. And starting on Monday, you can, or depending on when you're listening to this, it's maybe already premiered, Family Feud Canada on CBC and CBC Gem. I double-checked this time, 7:30.
Nice. Do you think there will be any Barbarian questions?
No, this is now a little just tease at questions I wrote. I wrote so many movie things that I just not lifted from movies, but inspired by movies.
Right.
I wrote a hot dog fingers question based on Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I don't know if any of these will make it in the show. Who knows? But anyways, Family Feud Canada, Monday through Thursday, 7:30 on CBC and CBC Gem. So go check that out too.
And I'm Eric Merchant. You can find more of my video reviews on rogerstv.com/cinemascene and on the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time.
Automotive industry.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.